Abomination!
The midwife screamed from within her inner chambers as the cries of the newborn filled the air. What's the problem? An eager and confused Adire inquired. The midwife couldn't hide the expression of horror on her face. Your wife has given birth to a child with horns. Horns! Yes, horns, Duyelemi said as she shook her head. How come? He was close to tears at this point. The eyes of the weak Monsho met Adire. I'm sorry, Monsho murmured weakly as she laid in bed with the baby next to her. She remembered what she had done, a secret she had kept from her husband, Adire. They had been barren for years, and the villagers mocked them. Tired of the constant mockery, Monsho went to a powerful witch doctor. The witch doctor told her she would never have a child of her own, but Monsho begged, offering to do anything. The witch doctor made some marks with chalks on the ground as he spoke. The only way to have a baby is to have a baby for the god of war. Your child will be born bearing the mark of the gods. Monsho was adamant and wanted a baby at all costs. But little did she know the mark the witch doctor spoke about will be horns. The next morning, a loud bang woke them up. The king's guards were at their door. What are you here for? Adire asked as they beckoned on him ferociously to step out. Dagbo, the head guard, began. The king summons you. News has come to him of the abomination in your household. You are to come before him together with your wife and your baby immediately. What have we done? We are going nowhere, Adire screamed, knowing the fate that awaits them at the palace. If you don't go, we will burn down this hut, along with everyone inside it. In panic, Adire agreed, as he and his wife made their way to King Omimi's palace. Open the shawls, let me see the abomination, King Omimi thundered as soon as they arrived at his palace. And at his command, one of the guards snatched the shawl from Monsho and unveiled the baby. Ah! Omimi and the others around him exclaimed in shock. So the rumors are true. Close it before you anger the gods. A child with horns. Such evil we cannot have in our land. You have two choices. You get rid of this thing or you go on total banishment from this land. We can't have this in our village. Abomination. Clamors came from the villagers who had gathered. We accept banishment, Adire said, before the crying Monsho could say anything. Banishment it is. You are to go and never come back. You are not to leave this town with anything but your lives. The day you return here, you shall die. They were expelled from the kingdom and forced to live with only the clothes on their backs. Monsho and Adire desperately sought refuge in Omari, a neighboring village. But as soon as the villagers saw the child's horn, the people began to scream, "Get that monster out of here! This is an abomination!" Adire pleaded with them as Monsho held her baby tightly. But stones and rotten fruits were thrown at them. They were chased out of the town by a fearful crowd. Every town they had gone to since their banishment had rejected them. Wounded and exhausted, the family stumbled into a dense forest. Adire stopped and surveyed the trees around him. He gathered bamboo, mud, and leaves and built a hut in a corner of the forest. This will have to be our home now. At least here we can live in peace away from their hate. Monsho cried, but not. Though it will be a harsh life, we will be saved from those who scorn his deformity. Several months had passed since their banishment. Adire and Monsho had kept their child and named him Degbedi, meaning he who conquers. Growing up in the forest, Degbedi had to be strong. He learned how to shoot a bow and arrow from his father. He learned how to fight to protect his parents from wild animals in the forest. He became so good and hunted wild animals for prey. He possessed superhuman strength and fought with the power of 100 people. One day, Degbedi was practicing his combat moves alone in a forest clearing. Sweat gleams on his horns as he moved with unnatural speed and agility when he heard a scream. Degbedi heard the scream again, followed by a girl's cry for help. He raced towards the sound and came upon a horrifying scene. 4 muscular bandits had a young village girl surrounded as she cowered in fear. Without hesitation, Degbedi burst out from his hiding place, his horns glistering as he took out 2 of the bandits with precise strikes before they could react. The other two came at him with swords. He disarmed them with expert moves, knocking them unconscious. The girl looked at Degbedi with a mixture of gratitude and shock, clearly stunned by both his fighting ability and his unusual appearance with the horns. Thank you for saving me, she stammered. Over the next few days, the curious girl began venturing back into the forest, looking for Degbedi. She wanted to learn more about this mysterious horned hero who had rescued her. Eventually, she found him practicing his combat moves. "Hello, I'm Kina," she said, trying not to stare at the jutting horns on his head. Degbedi was surprised to see her, but the girl seemed friendly enough. She told him all about life in her village, describing the people, customs, and layout he had never experienced before. Degbedi listened with fascination, a million questions burning inside him. He had been confined to the forest his entire life and longed to explore what's beyond the forest. After the meeting with Kina, Degbedi went to his mother. "Why don't we ever move into the city?" he asked. "We have all that is needed to survive here," his mother replied harshly. "This is where we belong and you can't understand." Even after all these years, that's what you keep saying. Listen, you are not allowed to leave this forest, and you are not allowed to speak to anyone except your father and I. Heartbroken, Degbedi walked away, angry and bitter. He had barely walked out when Monsho began to weep. She and Adire had decided not to tell him about their banishments in order not to traumatize him, and she did not know how long they could keep him away from the truth. Meanwhile, back in Adioso, Kurumi warriors invaded. The peace was shattered by a thunderous pounding of hoofs on the horizon. Plumes of dust rose as a large army of Kurumi warriors charged towards the village on horses. Their spears glinted in the harsh sunlight as the terrifying warriors approached at breakneck speed. Villagers fled in all directions, mothers scooping up their babies and elders frantically trying to take shelter. But it was no use. The unstoppable Kurumi force was upon them. War cries erupted from the Kurumi as they crashed into the village, trampling upon anything in their path. Huts were smashed and burned. Spears impaled any villager unlucky enough to be caught outdoors. The sickly sweet stench of blood and smoke choked the air. Within moments, the village laid in ruin. The mighty Kurumi horsemen had brought devastation to Adioso. "Our young ladies are scared to marry. They don't want to become widows." Ola, the head of the village women, stood up weeping. "The Kurumis have been raiding our lands and capturing our children," the head of the chief said, shaking his head. "Something has to be done," everyone echoed. The king turned to the chief priest, who was sitting silently at the corner of the palace. "You are the eyes and ears of the gods and our ancestors. Surely the gods must be saying something. The spirits of our ancestors cannot leave us stranded." The chief priest nodded. He spread his white cloth and scattered his seeds. "The gods are saying that you have chased your savior away from the town, and only him has the power to save the village." They all turned to each other in shock. "Who did we chase away, and how do we know where to find him?" King Omimi asked. "The gods do not say, but they tell me you chased him off when he was little, and he was a very unique person. Till we find him, this town will perish, I'm afraid," he pronounced. That night, the king could not sleep. Who could it be, he wondered. As he laid on his bed to rest, he said, "My ancestors, have mercy on me and help me find this person. I will make amends." At this, he went into a deep slumber. He dreamt about Degbedi and where to find him. As soon as he woke up from his sleep, he sent his guards to the forest to bring back Degbedi. Meanwhile, in the forest, Degbedi sat with his father outside their hut. Degbedi was the first to spot the king's guard. He stood up ready to attack. Adire followed closely behind with his poisonous spear in hand. Just as Degbedi was about to shoot the first arrow, Adire stopped him. "Hold! I recognize these people. They are from Adioso. Stand your guard while I go to meet them. Once I signal, shoot them in the heart." He watched from his hiding place as Monsho joined Adire to discuss with the strange men. After what seemed like an eternity, his father approached him. His father narrated the circumstances surrounding his birth and his banishment. Degbedi stared at the guards in disbelief. Finally, he uttered, "I will never go back to Adioso. Never. You did all this to me and my parents, left us to die. No." Monsho knelt down. "My son, truly they have wronged us greatly. but you must go. They are our people, your people too. Degbedi finally agreed to return with the guards to Adios. As they began the journey back, Degbedi couldn't help but feel a mix of worry and excitement about what awaited him. However, an even darker secret lurks behind the shadows about Degbedi's birth and the reason for his strange horn. His mother Monsho has hidden a dark secret, a truth that once unveiled had the power to destroy him and change everything he thought he knew about himself and his family. What sinister force or ancient curse lies behind his horn? And does he have the strength to save Adioso from Kumuri warriors? Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss it.